You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Sometimes we need to slow down and remember the simple pleasures in life. Good coffee, good books, and good company. Come on in. Take a seat. The coffee's just been brewed. Let's see who we have in the coffee shop today. Oh, what another lovely day in the coffee shop, where, to be honest, the weather's always perfect. And let's see, I'm looking to talk books and writing. Who can I find? Carl Hackman, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, how are you?
I'm great, and I see you've got your book, Gerald, and the Amulet of Zonrach on the table, and it's got your name on the cover.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing thing to see. A book that you've written, actually published with your name on it. It's quite surreal.
I bet. What was it like the first time you held that book in your hands?
It's one of those moments that you can't really explain. You've dreamt about it happening, and at first you never think it would happen, and then suddenly it's there in front of you. You can actually feel it in your hands. You go through a gamut of emotions like excitement, almost want to cry, everything. It's a huge range of emotions once you get it in your hand, and you just spend ages looking through the pages at the words you've written.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about Gerald and the Amulet of Zonrach?
Well, Gerald and the Amulet of Zonrach is a humorous fantasy, and the main character in it is obviously called Gerald. He's about 12 years old, and the main thing about the realm that he lives in is wizards. Their actual power is related to their height. The taller they are, the more powerful they are. The smaller they are, the less powerful they are. And what happens is, if they're successful casting spells, they get rewarded in promotion. They'll grow an inch. The more powerful a spell, they might even get a bigger promotion. But if they actually make a really terrible mistake, they can get demoted in inches. The problem is, if they're really bad, like Gerald, actually, because he's not a very good wizard, if you reach 4'8", so if you shrink down to 4'8", being demoted, you lose your wizard status until the gene that's in your body kicks in again. And this is how basically it works. The maximum height you can get to is about 6'3". So there's an upper range and a lower range where you can be a wizard. You won't go any more than 6'3", and all your height from the moment the wizard gene kicks in is controlled by how hard you study and how well you do as a wizard. And basically the book is about how Gerald tries to make himself better, and it doesn't always work out for him.
Oh, that sounds like a fun read. So what age range is this book targeting?
It's around about 11 to 12 years, up to 99 years. I've had a lot of reviews, or a lot of people have read it who are adults, and they just loved it. They say it's along the same sort of humour, British humour, so it's sort of along the same lines as Terry Pratchett. But because it's not as, how do you put it? It's easier for the younger audience to read as well. They don't find it as difficult to read as they might do with some of the Terry Pratchett novels. But the humour's in there as well, so that's what they love.
I think it sounds fantastic, and I don't think anyone should not read a book just because it's labeled as middle grade, young adult, or anything else. I think you should read the book you want to read.
Yeah, I agree with that totally.
So how long did it take you to write Gerald and the Amulet of Zonrach?
The first draft took me 6 months to write from start to finish. And then obviously I had to go through a whole gamut of revisions before I actually started submitting it to agents and publishers.
So did you use a professional editor or critique partner? What path did you take with your editing?
Well, I actually went through it over and over again until I felt I'd polished it as much as I could. And I had a couple of beta readers Then I submitted it myself. Once it took 3 years before a publisher turned around and said, yes, we want to publish your book. And from that point on, there was a professional editor assigned to the book, and then it went through another 4 or 5 rounds of editing before it actually reached the stage where they were happy to print it.
So it took a long time to get your dream. Now, is this your first book, or do you have other books out there?
I've got another one that's with a publisher at the moment called Jaguar, and it's totally different from this. I'm 3/4 of the way through the second in this series to Gerald and the Amulet of Zonrach, and that will be published in May next year. And I'm halfway through another novel, which is about an Anglo-Saxon boy and what happens to him after he has his rite of manhood. I mean, basically, there's one published, one with a publisher, one 3/4 of the way through, and one halfway through.
So you must spend a lot of time at your keyboard.
Yeah, basically, I'm a full-time writer now. That's what I do for a living.
Well, I think it's fantastic. So was that your dream? Was that your goal when you started writing, was to become a full-time writer?
Yeah. Oh, that's the one thing I really wanted to do once I left the service.
Well, as I said off-air, thank you for your service. Although I know the rules are different in the UK than they are in the US, I still think servicemen and women need thanks.
Yeah, so do I.
So, what advice would you give to that writer who's out there saying, no one will ever publish my book?
I'd just say, don't give up. You know, if you've got a path that you really want to follow, just go for it. And the other thing is, while you're actually submitting your novel around to agents or publishers and editors, don't just sit there and focus on that, because you just end up like freaking out all the time, waiting for rejection letters to come back or things to happen. What you should do straight away, as soon as you start submitting it, is to start on your next novel and actually be a writer. That's part of being a writer, where you finish one book, you send it out, and then you start work on the next. And don't give up on your dream.
I think that is outstanding advice. So do you ever face the dreaded writer's block?
Not so much, no. It's not. To me, I don't see it as a block so much. I think sometimes you may find a scene hard, or the progression hard, to the next part that you want to transfer to. But I usually find something else to do. If that sort of happens to me, I get up, go for a walk, or nip down the store. I always find something to take my mind away from the writing. And when I sit back down again, there's normally something pops into my head while I'm out doing something else. That's the time when ideas suddenly jump into your head, when you're actually doing something else, funny enough.
You know, you're about the 10th writer that's told me they get their best ideas when they're in the shower, asleep, out at the grocery store, playing with their kids, etc. So there must
Gerald
be
and the
something to
Zonrach,
that.
the idea for it, or the actual specific idea, especially about the hype promotion and everything, came while I was in the shower.
Well, I think that proves the theory of the case, that there must be something to this.
Yeah, I think if you let your mind, if you spend a lot of time staring at a screen or a bit of paper, it's never going to come to you. If the best ideas come into your head while you're doing something else, normally, if you're not actually 100% just staring at a screen.
So do you have a set schedule, like you get up at, a certain time every day and you start writing by a certain time? Do you have a routine, or do you kind of relax and take care of your day and then get around to writing?
I'm always up early in the morning anyway, because I've got to sort the dogs out. And once that's done, I'll have a cup of coffee, have a wash and a shower, and then I don't have a specific set time where I sit down and start to write. When I'm feeling comfortable, I'll sit down and write. I do try to get at least 1,000 words a day in. And that's normally when I'm feeling most relaxed. So I just sit down and I just read the last chapter that I've written, and then I carry on from there. So my brain's back into the story again before I start typing.
Well, I think that's also fantastic advice. So you are traditionally published, so how much input did you have on the cover?
Actually, I spoke to the artist quite a bit while he was doing the painting, because he actually did a 5 foot by 4 foot painting, so it wasn't done on a computer. So he did this massive painting, and we did speak a lot about what sort of thing I wanted on the cover.
I think it's great because I think every author should be proud of the cover of their book.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially your debut novel, it's something you never believe is going to happen, and then there it is in front of you.
That is one of those memories and dreams you will have forever. So what happened to that 5'4" painting?
It's still in the US at the moment. I'm going to try and get my hands on it, but the publisher paid for it, so, and you know how slow publishing can be. So I'm trying to wangle the painting because it'll look great on my study wall.
Talk about inspiration for your next book or next series, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about Gerald is it's not. There isn't a massive plot arc in it, so it's not as if it's going to be a fixed book length series. This could go on and on and on. Every book's episodic. It's like Gerald 2. You could pick up Gerald 2 when it comes out next May and just read it. You wouldn't have to read Gerald 1 to be able to read Gerald 2.
Well, I must say that I think that puts you in excellent company, in fact, because my favorite traditionally published author, and the only one I bring up on air because he is traditionally published, because I don't want to slight any of myself or indie published friends, while I love their works, is Brad Thor, and he's known for writing thrillers.
Yeah, I've seen a few. There's quite a few of his books in the bookstore that we've got here. There's like a little old bookstore in Sasua. It's all for expats and and people who want to read a book on the beach. There's no real bookstores in the DR as such. Same with libraries. So this is just a tiny little bookstore, and I go down there and write quite a bit. And there's quite a lot of Brad Thor in there. I haven't actually read him myself, so I may have to pick up one of his books.
Well, the awesome thing about his books is they are episodic in that the same cast of characters, or some of the same cast of characters, will reappear. But you don't have to have read them in order to know what's going on. You'll miss out on a few little subtle things, some of the character growth and development that over 16 books with Scott Harvath, he's changed a little bit. But you will still be able to pick up whatever one, doesn't matter where it falls in the series, read it and enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, in Gerald 2, there's some references to events that went on in Gerald 1, but nothing that prevent you from enjoying the story. You wouldn't have to jump back to read Gerald 1, but there are a couple of references, like the bad guy in Gerald 1, Vabalaz. A couple of times he's mentioned in Gerald 2, but it's not as if you've got to jump back to find out what went on. It's just a slight mention.
Exactly, and that's much the way I feel that the Brad Thor novels are. There's a slight mention of what went on previously, but you don't have to go back and reread the previous so many novels to catch up. You can pick up the latest one and be right at home with what's going on. So I think that takes a special level of talent and creativity.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I was conscious of when I was writing Gerald 1. I wanted it to have a satisfying ending and be an episode. I didn't want to leave a cliffhanger or anything. And when I was on Gerald 2, I wanted to make sure that was a standalone novel as well. I mean, obviously there's quite a few of the same characters in it, but I wanted readers to be able to just buy the book and not have to worry about buying any of the previous books. And it's going to be like this all the way through. And the one thing I really like about this idea is the fact that I can write as many books as I want using Gerald, Colin and Zach, as the three characters in there, because they're sort of like a little team on their own, but I can go anywhere with it. I'm not restricted down to a complete plot arc,
Well, that sounds fantastic. So are you a plotter? In other words, you sit down and you work out this tedious outline. Are you the pantser? You just let Gerald, Colin, and Zach run away with the story? Or do you fall somewhere in between where you've got those 3 or 4 main plot points, but how you're getting through them, you don't know?
No, I mean, I must say that I'm probably like Stephen King, complete pantser.
So you have no idea what Gerald, Colin, and Zach are going to get up to, do you?
Half the time, no. But one thing I will do, though, if an idea of a satisfying ending pops into my head, I will stick it right at the end of the last chapter. I will put it in there. So then I've got a direction. But I do let the characters basically run wherever they're going to go, and I find that a lot more satisfying because the characters surprise me. I've even had characters pop into, well, I had a character pop into Gerald 1 that wasn't even supposed to be there, and he turned out to be one of the major characters in the book.
Oh, that is fantastic. I have heard many times the saying, no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked when he turned up there. It wasn't supposed to happen, but he did turn out to be one of the major characters. Hilarious he is.
So how do you research the magical and fantastical elements of your book?
They're totally made up.
So
everything.
But you must have created some kind of world building, even if the writer will never see all of it, where you have rules for the society, like you said, 4'8" to 6'3", and how did you come up with those limits and things like that?
And one thing I did try to do, because usually in fantasy there's a lot of world building, and there's quite a steep learning curve for like readers. And this is one thing I wanted to really avoid with Gerald. I wanted people to get into the book and enjoy the story without a ton of world building. So I tried to keep a lot of things familiar, and all I did was twist them slightly. So, for instance, there's an orcling in there. So most people have heard of Tolkien and they'll know about orcs. So I just stuck an orcling in there, which is a hybrid between an orc and a human. Same with an elf, an elfling. So I tried to keep, even though there are a lot of Tolkien sort of type races in there, they're not. You just find the odd one pops up now and again, and I've put a little twist in there, but not too much, so people will relate to it. And the world building itself, there wasn't too much. There was still sort of medieval sort of things going on, but there was nothing in there that had to really define so that the reader has a steep learning curve. You can basically just jump into the book and you're in there. There's nothing really, really strange goes on. I like to try and keep as much familiar in there as possible.
Okay, that sounds like a solid method. Now, this world that Gerald, Colin, and Zach live in, have you mapped it out? Do you know where all the cities and the rivers and the forests and all that is?
Yeah, I did draw myself a map just so I had an idea. I mean, that was mainly for, I know where the cities are and everything like this. And one of the things was, the main reason I actually just drew it out for myself is so that I could actually get in my head distance. So I could see, right, in my head, I know a horse will probably take you maybe 30 miles a day if you're pushing it. So I know it's going to take X amount of days to reach this village from a different village. And that's the main reason I did that. There's a set of mountains, a few sets of mountains, there's forests, rivers, and all this. And I know where the villages are in relation to each other. And that way I know how long it's going to take to travel between them, depending on the terrain as well. That's mainly the reason that I'd done that. It wasn't so much as a world building thing. It was more for me in my own head, so I didn't get lost, or it didn't seem unrealistic while they were on their travels.
Well, I think that's actually part of researching even a fantastical world, is that you include, you can't suddenly have a horse travel 80 miles in a day. It's just not going to happen.
No.
Unless that horse is magic, but...
Yes, I mean, yeah. Or you've got a dragon.
Well, a dragon's a whole other creature.
Yeah. There's a couple of those in Gerald 1 as well.
All right. How do you research a dragon?
I made it up. I did a sort of research. I had an idea in my head how the size I wanted it to be when it hatched from the egg. And just what happens in the book, Gerald... If you read the book, you'll find out that Gerald takes shortcuts to everything, and he likes to buy flashy gear. This is how he ends up with the amulet, and this is how he ends up with Zach. So he likes to take shortcuts. This is how he actually created the main event, which kicked off Gerald in the first place, the book. He caused something cataclysmic just by taking shortcuts. So this is the sort of guy he is. But he's also the sort of person who doesn't do anything for himself. If he uses magic, normally he wants to do it to help somebody else or to beautify something. He never actually does anything for himself. He's not a selfish little guy, but he does take shortcuts and make a lot of mistakes. And the dragon, all it was, I had an idea in my head once when it hatched, it'd be a certain size, like an Irish wolfhound when it was hatched. This is what I had in my head. And then from there, Obviously, Gerald takes shortcuts to try and make him grow, but there's certain things about the dragon. It can't breathe it can't breathe fire until it's a certain size. It still doesn't know how to fly, even though it's got the wings and that, until Gerald starts to try and coax it to fly and things like this. So, I mean, it sort of rolls along, but it's not something you've got to do a lot of research about. You've just got to have it in your head where you want it to go. And there is one chapter, I think it's about chapter 17, where he meets this guy who's going to train him to do something, who actually talks about where dragons came from and how dragons, wizards, and Mother Earth all relate to each other. And there's a whole section in there which, even though it seems a bit of world building or background, it's quite an interesting thing. They just sat around a campfire chatting. That's how I did it. And I'm really pretty pleased with that chapter as well.
Well, that's great. Now, they say editing is slaying your darlings.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What is that one scene or that one chapter that you had to take out, but you loved it? You really didn't want to take it out, but you had no choice.
Yeah, it's exactly what I had to do as well, funny enough, because the idea was the book was supposed to be aimed at a middle grade, even though it's still quite long for a middle grade novel. But I didn't want it to be specifically middle grade. I wanted it to be all age ranges. And it started out at something like 88,000 words. But I got it down to 77 because somebody said, there's no way an agent or an editor is going to pick that up if you send it in as an up and air MG at that length, even though it's fantasy. So you're going to have to cut some stuff out. And I was, oh, God. So I got it to 77. I thought, right, this will do. And I sent it off. And it took a while, but a publisher came back and said, yeah, well, we really, we'd like to publish a book, but it's got to be down at 55,000 words. And I was, oh, no, I can't take 20,000 words out of this, what's left. So what I did was I went through and I cut this whole piece out of the book and I got it down to 67,500 words. And I thought, that's it, I can't cut any more. And actually, it did get published at that length, so I was really surprised. But one of the things I had to do was I had to cut out a whole scene where Gerald was about to do the final part. This is the do or die bit. And so he went back to visit his family before he went. And there's a massive scene in there where he takes a dragon with him. He takes his friend Zach, and they both go and visit his family in this rundown old cottage. And it's a big scene. And I wanted that in there just to show a bit about, Gerald's family, the background, because they're non-wizards. He's the only one in the whole of the family with his wizarding gene. And I really wanted to keep that one in there because it does actually show a lot about how they regard him. And when he turns up on his dragon and explains everything he's been through and how well he's doing, then they'll look at him in a different light. But I had to cut the whole thing out.
Well, I hope you didn't delete those precious words.
No, they're still in one of the drafts.
Well, that's good, because while I'm not a writer, I do think words are precious because I am, for all intents and purposes, a voracious reader. I'll read anything if it sits in front of me long enough. That includes the cereal box.
Yeah, I've got a habit of doing that as well. If there's words in front of me, I'll start reading them.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, take your pick, I am blessed with a reading speed where I can get through a couple hundred novels a year.
Yeah, I read quite quick. I don't skim read, I actually do read quite quick, and I'll get through more than a book a week.
Exactly, and people look at you like, how'd you get through that so fast?
Once you get into it, you're in.
Exactly.
I think that's the thing that most authors have to be able to do, captivate the reader, make them fall through that hole.
And suspend disbelief and hang on for the ride.
Yeah, and that's exactly what fantasy is.
You can make more money and buy another book if you don't like this one. You can do a lot of things, but the most precious gift I think a reader can give an author is the time it takes to read their book.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing I think they can do for authors, once they've bought the book and once they've read it and actually taking it in. There's one really important thing for authors, and I guarantee they'll all say this, is put a review up on Amazon or wherever. Just one. It can be a single line. I love this book. That's all it is. Just take the time. Just take the time to say thank you, that you know, because you enjoyed the novel, because that makes a huge difference to one, the author themselves anyway, but it also keeps the book visible, so more people get to see it.
Well, I will have to disappoint on that note because Jessie never leaves reviews, but she does have the coffee shop, and if I have something to say about a book, I'll usually email the author or send them a message privately.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that the radio show itself, anyway, is a huge way of getting your book out there to your listeners. So, I mean, it's a fantastic thing there.
But that's because I do the show Jessie's Coffee Shop. That's why I won't leave a review, because I don't want an author to see a review that I wrote and come along and say, well, I don't want to be on the show.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, a professional author wouldn't reply to a review. It's just, if you're going to go on and you can actually get involved with what people have said about your novels, it's not very professional. To me, I think people have got a right to say what they want to say, and if they don't enjoy it, they don't enjoy it. If they really love it, they love it. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion, and they're allowed to have their opinion. That's the one good thing about free speech.
And I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I'm going to tell a little tale out of school. One of my writer friends was at a writers' conference. I'm not going to say what conference, and I'm not going to say where. And this published author had the nerve to say something that just absolutely blew my author friend and myself away. Well, if you get a review you don't like, you just quietly send an email to some of your favorite fans. They'll take care of it. In other words, they will troll and spam and drive that person crazy until they pull the review.
No, that's really unprofessional. I don't agree with that. You should never get involved. If somebody puts up reviews, you should never get involved in them. Everyone's got a right to their own opinion. Not everybody's going to like your book, and you've got to accept that as an author. So if you can't take it, you shouldn't be in that industry.
That is exactly how I felt. Now, I do know that Brad Thor, while he does not respond to his reviews, he does read them, and sometimes he'll take little bits of information or feedback from his fans. Like, you know, he has a character it's called the Troll. He's a dwarf. He has primordial dwarfism. And people say, you know, he'll get a number of comments, oh, we want to see more of the Troll. We want to see more of the Troll. You know, comments like that. So he'll make sure the Troll comes back a couple books later. But he doesn't publicly comment.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'd do. I'd see if there's anything consistent in the reviews that people want to see, or if there's something that readers are consistently finding that they dislike. If there's a lot of that on one sort of certain subject, I'll go and have a look, and then I'll address that in another novel. Either won't put it in. If it's a character or something's acting in a certain way that seems to be out of character, I'll stop them doing it. I'll take that on board, what readers are saying there. If they say you want to see more of a certain character, I'll take that on board. But so I'll actually have a look and see if there's anything there, but I'll never respond to reviews.
Well, I do hope if I send you a private email about something, that would be a different story.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. If I get an email from somebody, or I get a message on Facebook on my author page from somebody who wants to chat to me about something in the book, I've got no problems talking to them with it. And I don't get, let's see, I wouldn't be upset or offended, and I could discuss anything they want to discuss. I've got no problem with doing that. I'm not going to be, oh yeah, well, I think it's perfect. And you don't, as a professional author, you can discuss things with people without resorting to being nasty. It's just totally unprofessional.
Well, I thank you for standing up for professional authors and restoring my faith, because when I heard those words that my friend told me about from that conference she went to, and trust me, the whole room gasped when this person told people how to handle a negative review.
No, that's disgusting, actually. Sorry.
I will have to actually agree with you, and I will pass this on to my writer friend that was at the conference, and she'll get quite the chuckle out of it, even though I didn't give any identifying details. She'll know exactly what we're talking about.
Probably. But no, any professional author should respect what their readers say. Not everybody's going to like your book, and that's the facts of life, so you've got to accept it.
Now, I have a particular, I get a little grumpy. Calling yourself an aspiring author means you are a writer who is aspiring to be published, in my mind. But calling yourself an aspiring writer, I'm sorry, you either are writing or you're not.
Yes. As soon as you put pen to paper, you're a writer.
Like I said, not trying to bring up the politics of writing versus authorship, but it's just, you seem to have a very good grasp on these concepts.
Yeah, I does. And anybody who's written a novel as well, to me, that is like a massive achievement. And whichever path they want to take to publishing is up to those. So nobody should knock anybody else for self-publishing, and nobody should knock anybody else for just pursuing traditional publishing if that's the route they want to take. But in anybody's book, actually completing a whole novel is an outstanding achievement.
I happen to agree with you. Now, what made you choose the traditional publishing path?
I'm not really sure. I think I wanted the validation because, even though I was in the service for a long time, you still got this little insecurity, and you still like to have what you've done validated. But I also thought I wanted like a publisher to be able to do the cover for me, to do the editing, to do an audio book for me, and do all the things that a publishing house does that would become a nightmare to try and do yourself as a self-published author. Plus, I think you're more likely, this is not slating self-published people, but I think to get your book to a standard that you would come from a publishing house, you would need to invest quite a bit of money in it for a really good book cover, for professional editing services, and the rest of it is quite an investment. And what I wanted to do was to be traditionally published. So that's the route I went. And I waited and waited and waited and waited until it finally happened. I didn't give up on that.
Well, I thank you for not giving up on your dream, because I'm willing to bet that this novel is going to suck me in. Now, speaking of costs, yes, even in radio, there are bills to pay, so it is time to take that wonderful commercial break. So I'm going to pour Gerald a fresh cup of coffee, and we will see you folks on the other side of the commercial break.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your healthcare? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their healthcare. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your healthcare, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your healthcare while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
All right, thank y'all for hanging in there with us while we paid those radio station bills. Now, Carl, you've got a sequel of Gerald that we've been referring to as Gerald 2. When is that coming out?
Well, my publisher's hoping to, or it's slated for release to come out in May next year. So we're hoping to do one per year. So the next one due out would be around about May the 15th, depending on whether I obviously get it there in time. I've got to finish it and get it there before November the 1st. So.
Well, that sounds like a blast. And Gerald and the Amulet of Zonrach has an audiobook?
Yes, that came out recently as well, and it was narrated by Tim Anstey from England. He's an actor who actually narrated the book for me. It is actually amazing. I mean, you can get it on Amazon. On Audible, and I think you can actually, if you actually haven't got Audible, you can actually sign up for a free Audible trial, and you can get Gerald free if you do that, as far as I know.
Yes, they do give you one free audiobook when you sign up for Audible.
So that's pretty neat.
I happen to be an audiobook
7.5 hours
fan.
long.
Wow, 7.5 hours. I assume that's unabridged?
Yes.
So it's just like turning the pages. That's what I love, is the unabridged.
Yeah, and he's a really good narrator, this guy. Typical British accent as well.
Oh, that's okay. Makes it more. I'm assuming your book is probably set in the UK, sort of based off UK culture and things.
It's sort of like medieval. It's medieval fantasy. So, but I always picture like medieval England and something like that. That's how I always see it.
Now, you are planning to visit your listeners and readers in the States next year. Is that true?
Yes. We're hoping to do a 3-month book tour up the east coast of the US next year, which will coincide with the release of Gerald and the Three Princesses. So we're hoping to hit about 14 states like Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, maybe Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. So we're hoping to go all the way up the east coast of the US.
That's quite the trip.
We think it's going to take around about 3 months for us to do the whole tour. 3
to 4 months, yeah, that sounds about right. Because especially if depending on whether you're driving or flying between states, it can take a bit. Although
I think we're going to drive all the way up just to enjoy the journey, if you know what I mean.
Oh, road trips are a blast.
That's the one. But what I want to do as well, I don't know if it'll be possible at the moment. We're still trying to sort out the itinerary for it, because we was talking about hitting all the Barnes and Nobles on the way up in the large towns and cities. But I'd love to be able to get away from the main routes and go to some of the smaller bookstores as well, and and visit them. I find they're not as corporate. They're more, I'm more comfortable with the small places.
Well, I'm willing to bet that there's a few booksellers that listen to this show, so if they need your contact information, they can always hit me up, and your social media information, as always, will be at the end of the episode. But I think that'll be sounds like a fantastic journey. It really does.
I'm really looking forward to it.
So how did you feel when you heard that your book was going to be turned into an audiobook?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, the publisher said once we got the book going and was going through the editing process, he actually said, right, we're going to audition an actor now to create an audiobook of Gerald. And I was like, oh my God. So now it's on Amazon Audible. And I was just amazed. It took a long time for him to do it as well. He didn't just sit for 7.5 hours and read it. He had to go through all of it, the whole book, how I wanted things pronounced, especially when it came to some of the names that are in there that are not so easy to pronounce. So we had to just do a lot of discussion on how he was to say each of the names or each of the villages and things like this.
Well, I'm glad to hear that your publisher and even your audiobook artist worked with you so that it is truly your vision that is brought to life. Because I feel that's a fear that many people don't have when they think traditional. Oh, well, the book's out of my hands. I have no more control over it. But that's not always the case.
No, it's not always the case. I mean, I think you can be as involved as you want to, but at the end of the day, because it is traditionally published, they get the last say. So if you disagree with something and they decide, well, that's what we want to go with, that's what they go with. But I mean, with my publisher, I got a lot of input, and I discussed all aspects with the artist who did the cover and the actor who did the audiobook, and it was really a hands-on experience for me as well, which is totally different. I've never experienced anything like that before, so it was amazing.
And who is your publisher?
It's Immortal Works. They're based in Utah.
Sounds like a wonderful publisher, because they do want the artist's input.
Yeah, I mean, they're hands-on as well. I mean, they really are. I talk to the publisher quite often, and I talk to the editor obviously a lot. But it wasn't just like the manuscript was sent to me with a load of edits in it that I had to go through. We actually did chat about, how I wanted the book to go and what sort of tone I wanted it to have as well. So the editor knew then what I meant by certain parts, and maybe helped me sort of clarify something that they thought was a bit fuzzy or something, but also allowed me to keep my voice and the tone within it. So, I mean, it was an excellent experience working with these guys.
So what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone who's, other than don't give up, to someone who's now who's got that traditional publishing contract, who's just going, I feel like I just jumped off a cliff?
Enjoy the ride down, because it's fun. Just enjoy yourself. Once they accept it, and that's when the work begins, really, more than anything. But just enjoy it and keep working on your next book as well. Don't just stop and wait for the things to come back from the publisher for you to do. Actually start work on the next one. Always keep working on another novel, always. But just really enjoy the experience as well.
So when you got that book in your hands, is that when you knew it was real?
Yes and no, which is a strange thing to say, really. Because it's still, even now, and I'm 3/4 of the way through the next in the series, and I know that's coming out in May next year. Sometimes I still can't believe that I'm a published author. It's just, sometimes it just feels surreal. And then something else happens, like the audiobook comes out and you listen to your words being read by an actor, and it's just like, it still doesn't sink in that you've actually achieved one dream that you've always had. And I don't know if it ever will. even when I'm bringing more books out, I don't know if I'll ever just settle into the fact that I'm now a published author.
What made you decide to start writing?
I think a lot of it had to do with when I was a kid, and also when I was in the Navy. I mean, I read a lot. I mean, as you probably know, and a lot of servicemen know, there's always quiet periods, and whenever it was quiet, I was always in a book. And I always had this dream that I'd love to hold something in my hands that I had written. So I was looking through reading all these books when I was on board ship, when we was at sea, and I was just thinking, oh God, I wish I could hold in my hands one that I've written myself. And it took a long time to happen, but I got there in the end.
I think that's great. And to quote one of my favorite people, I guess you just have to stay in the fight.
Yeah. If you don't, it's like if you can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket.
So how do you deal with multiple writing projects? Do you ever get confused or find yourself going, wait a minute, that character shouldn't be in this book, that character is part of the Gerald series?
Funny enough, no, I don't. It doesn't confuse me. I can go from one to the other. It's like when I was writing Gerald 2, and I had to did some more edits on Jaguar before I actually sent it off to Curiosity Quills, which is the publisher that I've submitted Jaguar to now. And when I jumped back into Gerald again, it was as if I'd never been away. I don't seem to have a problem jumping between any of the works that I'm working, projects that I'm working on at the time.
Now, you mentioned you did a lot of your own editing. Did you take time away from that manuscript and work on something else just to give yourself that little bit of space and distance?
Yeah, whenever I finish one, I always start another one or start editing one that I've already written. And then I leave that for a few weeks and then come back to it. And one thing that I find a lot easier is if you go away for a couple of weeks, once you've finished the first draft, print it out and then start working on edits from paper using a pen. You'll catch a lot more than you will do staring at a screen.
So the screen plays tricks on the eyes.
It does after a while. You feel a lot more comfortable editing reading from paper, I've found. That's just personal for me. I don't know if other people will be the same, but personally for me, I find it a lot better to read from actual pages if I'm going into the editing process.
Well, I think that is excellent advice. So what's one little thing you could tell us about Gerald that we haven't already discovered that won't spoil the plot? Some little character trait or some little thing? Does he have a favorite treat or a favorite hobby that the reader that doesn't maybe show up in your books, but that's background information that you know?
Well, there's a lot of little things about him that you find out during it. He's always got this thing about his height because powerful wizards are always tall wizards in his realm in Wyvern. So he's always got this thing where he's about height. So he actually wears like lifts in his shoes. He buys a pair of as well in the book. You find out really early on. He goes to this little market and he buys a pair of boots. Yeah, but they've got like a little bit extra in the side to make him look that bit taller. So he's always got this little thing about his height. The one thing that, I mean, it is sort of background about him is he doesn't want to go back and do what his father does. His dream has always been to be a great wizard, and he definitely doesn't want to do what his dad does. And his father actually deals with equine fertilizer. So he goes from village to village, going around stables, picking up horse poop, and then sells them to the king's stables, to the kings for fertilizer.
I can see why he may not want to get into the family business, as it were.
Yes,
it's a bit of a smelly occupation.
Yeah. His father got the royal, in the UK they got this by royal appointment. There's these companies in the UK that actually supply like the palace with whatever goods, like marmalade, tea, or anything like that. But they always have this thing on there that is like as a crest, and it says by royal appointment. That sort of shows up in the book with Gerald's dad, because Gerald's father actually gets the contract for cleaning out the actual palace stables, and it says by royal appointment on the side of his cart.
Oh wow, that's a cute little tidbit. I find it's fascinating, personally to find out those little tidbits and things about your favorite author or your favorite celebrity that doesn't normally show up. Kind of like pull back that curtain a little bit and see what makes them tick and what drives them.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably just say most authors, you wouldn't want to live inside their brains because they're a little bit weird.
True, but pulling back the curtain just a hair isn't so scary.
No, as long as it is just a peek.
Trust me, I've interviewed quite a number of authors and gotten quite a few peeks and sometimes even a little bit more inside their brains than is evident in the episodes, but yeah. I always find it to be a fun and enjoyable ride. So
there's one brain I wouldn't like to see the inside of too far, and that's Stephen King's.
Oh, I think that would be a fascinating ride.
Oh, it'd scare the heck out of me. What goes through, I mean, reading some of his books, what goes through his brain on a daily basis must be scary sometimes.
I think we all have those moments where we can be a little bit scary inside.
Yeah, I suppose some of the things I put in some of the books. I mean, Jaguar itself as well, which is the other novel. It's not, I'm still waiting for an answer from that, it's on submission, but there's some bits in there that, not graphic so much as, but Jaguars do kill, so there's some bits in there that I had to try and get inside the Jaguar's head to recreate it almost, as realistic as possible. And there's certain things about how a Jaguar makes a kill that's different from other big cats as well that I had to try and get into the book so it's factually correct. So sometimes it being inside your head isn't such a nice place to be all the time.
So did you do a lot of research on jaguars for the book Jaguar?
Yes, I did a lot. Yeah, I went down and to zoos as well and visited the jaguar keepers and stuff like that. But I found out things about jaguars, that are totally different from other big cats. Especially how they hunt, how they make a kill is completely different from other big cats.
I think it's those little details that are right that make a book so much more fascinating and so much more interesting.
Yeah. So I had to that's the thing I wanted. When I was researching that one, I always wanted to find out what was the difference between that big cat and other ones, and that way I could actually zoom in on those little differences, so that you knew you were talking about a jaguar and not like a leopard.
So, what is the biggest difference between a jaguar and other cats?
Well, they've got the strongest bite for one, and they actually, if they make a kill, they'll jump. Depending on the size of the prey as well, they'll jump on their back and bite the bottom of the skull and crush the spine.
Ouch.
Most big cats strangle.
Okay, well, that's news to me. So I love picking up little facts and tidbits along the way.
Yeah, it's a fascinating subject. But it's one of those books that I really, really wanted to write. So.
And what genre is Jaguar?
It's probably contemporary fantasy. It's sort of modern day, and it's got some fantastical elements in it. I mean, even though the jaguars talk to each other, they can't talk to humans. So it's more from her point of view. There are some humans in there as well, and they do make contact, but they can't talk to each other. But there is parts in it where she's speaking to her cubs and things like this. But it's mainly from her point of view, and I just loved it. I've always loved big cats anyway, but I love animals, and I try and help animals any way I can. And there was just something about this story as it was building in my head that I felt I had to write. I wanted to write.
Well, I think that if there's a story trying to burst forth, a good writer will find a way to put it on paper.
Yeah, well, it's complete now and it's submitted, so now I've just got to wait to see if I get a taker.
Well, I hope that book does come out for you, and I hope you're back here on the coffee shop discussing 2 more books, Gerald 2 and Jaguar.
That would be great. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to the tour next year as well, and the release of the next in the series.
Well, as I give everybody the chance at the end of an episode of Jesse's Coffee Shop, why don't you give out your social media contact information?
Okay, thank you. On Facebook, it's Carl Hackman Author, and Carl is spelt with a C, by the way, guys. On Twitter, it's Carl Hackman. Instagram, Carl Hackman Author, and my website is carlhackman.com.
And for anybody trying to track me down, whether you're looking for more information about one of my authors or you want to be a guest in the coffee shop, you can find me on Twitter at Jessie's POV, and you can email me at the station, Jessie, Jessie, at KLRNradio.com. And you can always catch up with me on the website, jessiescoffeeshop.com. And on that note, I'm going to snatch Gerald and the Amulet of Zonrach off the table, pour myself a cup of coffee, and settle down with a great book. And I will see you folks next time in the coffee shop.